Oh, welcome to this special edition of the Jim Kleiber Show. We are going live after this second debate, technically the second debate, because there was no second debate. This is the third of the second of three debates, or third of two debates. I don't know how to phrase it. But anyways, this is a debate show trying to reflect on the energy and the emotions of what happened during the debate. And I am worked up. I was very worked up on the internet. I was tweeting and I was on Facebook, and I'm fed up. I'm fed up. I actually already voted. I didn't think it would bother me so much, but I'm so fed up. It's just, whether people want to believe what Trump has accomplished or not, I just cannot stand his rhetoric anymore. I can't stand him saying, oh, it's the best, it's the worst, oh, you're the most corrupt, you're the dumbest, I'm the smartest. It's using all of these superlatives, which are clear exaggerations of the truth. It's impossible that he's the smartest person. I mean, it's impossible. Out of what, we got how many billions of people now that he's the smartest person? He's the best president the last 30 or last 20 that we've had. The best, the least racist. He's done the most for African Americans. You know, the person who signed the Civil Rights Act didn't do that much for the African Americans. Really? Really? He's done more than that person? Really? I mean, it's just, the problem with speaking with such superlatives is that it's so easily falsifiable. It's like the restaurant that says world's greatest hot dog. It's not the world's greatest hot dog. There's almost zero chance that it's the world's greatest hot dog. But people still put it. And it's that, I can't. I hope some people join in, because I don't want to just rant and rave to the screen tonight. So if anyone's out there listening, I'm going to try to take this a little more flowy. Started the live show. Come join. It's maybe, were people so desperate before that they thought that things weren't working? Not desperate, but like, were they going through some really tough times? I'm not trying to say people are desperate. It's more of like going through desperate situation, going through despair, going through hopelessness, or going through experiences like this, not to characterize the person. Hey, we got someone here listening in Alabama. Yay, welcome, welcome. Feel free to put comments or questions or answers in the chat, and then we can interact that way. Or if somebody actually wants to join the show and has a camera and like proper lighting so it's not super dark, I can bring you into the show as well. I haven't done that before, but that may be fun. It's just, I try so hard to remember that when we support one candidate or the other, that often it's because of the experiences we've had in life and the feelings that we have regarding different things. So maybe we don't trust the media because they betrayed us at some point in our lives, and it was something that we really needed support on. So maybe we were in the military and we saw what was happening on the ground, and maybe we lost a friend to some explosion, and then the media didn't even cover it. You know, or worse, that they covered it, but they downplayed the event, or they didn't even talk about the loss of my best friend. Maybe it's some other thing. I don't know. Like, so regarding to the media or with politicians, maybe we've lost hope in politicians in some ways because of what politicians did to us in the past. Maybe we're applying for a permit with the city government, and they screwed us over, and they took a really long time. And it took a long time to get the answer. And then once they finally got the answer, they said they were going to do one thing, and then they did another thing. And it ruined our business, or it ruined our house, or some other thing. Or maybe we have somebody who's been lost in the court system, or somebody who's been lost in prison. Or we have people who have almost been forgotten by the government because they feel forgotten. They feel left out because economically Maybe local government paid attention to them, but the state government may have, but the national government just ignored them. One of the challenges I see in kind of my relationships is that I have friends and have lived on the coasts. I lived in Miami for a little bit. I lived in California for a couple of years. I have a lot of friends in California, in New York, in Florida, in Chicago, and some of the bigger cities. And I also have a lot of friends and especially relatives who live in the Midwest or who live in Alabama or who live in other parts of the country, Arizona and places like this. And it's easy, I think, for people in Washington to overlook what's happening in some of the more rural areas. And it breaks my heart. Like, but it's hard. I think a lot of times politicians and people in Washington don't intend to overlook what's going on in some of these areas. It just reminds me, like I worked on a project. I was doing a project, innovation consulting project. And one of the guys on the project was from India, but he had lived in upstate New York for a very long time. And he says, when I'm trying to think about doing an innovation, a new product for India, I struggle because I forget what it's like to live in India. I've lived here for 5 or 10 years. I can't remember viscerally what it's like when the electricity goes off or what it's like to buy small little packets every single day instead of going out to a place like Costco or Sam's Club and buying a huge bulk package. And so sometimes it's just really hard to imagine what other people are feeling and experiencing when we're not there, even if we're from there. And I think so often some people will come in, especially really loud people in media, and say, those people don't care about you, they're against you, they're corrupt, and they're trying to screw you over. I just don't believe that. I just very rarely, I don't even think Trump is trying to screw me over. I think Trump is just swimming and like thrashing around in the deep end and doesn't really know what he's doing on some things. And on other things, I think he's speaking specifically to a certain audience and he's telling them that other people don't trust or that other people are lying to them and cheating them. And I don't think it's out of bad intention. I think he believes this. I think he really believes that a lot of people are lying and cheating him, and he's almost spreading the message to make sure that other people don't get hurt. It's I had a friend's parent who said, told him, don't trust anyone. People are just going to screw you over. Don't trust anyone, even your family. Even your closest family, you can't trust that much. And I don't think he was trying to hurt his kid. I think he was actually trying to protect him. But I don't know if that's the best way to protect a kid, is to teach him to not trust the world. It can be a really scary and lonely place when we don't trust other people. I just... I'm not trying to figure out so much why people support Biden. I understand why a lot of people support Biden. I'm trying to understand why people support Trump more than anything. Somebody asked me why I support Biden, and the answer I mainly gave was that I thought about running for politics. I thought emotional health was the number one issue that this country is facing. Not even this country, around the world. Sadness, anger, despair, loneliness, fear, indifference, apathy. Yes, some joy, some gratitude, but a lot of being stuck in anxiety and uncertainty and helplessness, hopelessness. And I think Biden is the one who is one of the best suited. Notice I said one of the best. I didn't say the best. Difference between saying the best and one of the best. It puts someone in an upper echelon, but one of the best could be in the top 10, top 100. It's quite expansive, whereas the best is very certain that he is the best person in the world. I don't say things like that most of the time because they're quite falsifiable. I just don't like when people say blatant bullshit. So I think Biden is one of the best people positioned right now in the U.S. to help us with a lot of this despair and this grief. People have lost, they talk about people losing lives and losing loved ones to COVID. And we have. We've lost them to the virus itself. We've lost them to working overtime at the hospitals. Like haven't really lost, like fully lost them, but we've lost contact with them. We've lost physical contact with many people. We've lost relationships with a lot of people. We've lost maybe our homes, or we've lost our jobs, or we've lost people to suicide or to overdose. I mean, we lose people, and then we lose them, especially during this time, and then we're not allowed to grieve with them closely. So we lose somebody dies, and we can't even go to the funeral. Or if we can't even like touch the body, or we can't hug each other. And it's brutal for so many of us. And I think it's easy to say, okay, well, we just need money. And what it says to me is that a lot of people are really struggling financially. And a lot of people are looking at the US in general, but probably more personally, and saying that I am personally struggling financially and I need to have more money. I need to have a better job. I can't keep up. I am struggling, and all these other people seem to be doing fine and I'm not. Or maybe all these people around me aren't doing fine. And the only ones who seem to be doing fine are the ones in California and Silicon Valley and the people on Wall Street. But me here in Tennessee or Nebraska, or even, certain parts of California or Michigan, I'm not doing well financially, but also not doing well emotionally. And I think those things are closely related, more closely than many times we admit. And believing and hoping and praying that Trump or some figure will come in and help them financially. It's a struggle, man. Like, a lot of us are struggling with money, struggling with a lack of money, or struggling with too many bills, or struggling the fear of losing our house, or losing our spouse, or losing so many things that are connected to money, or hate our jobs and are doing the job and it's destroying our body and destroying our soul, but we do it because it gives us the money, and maybe destroying the relationships we have, but it keeps the house, it keeps the roof over our heads and the food's in our belly. The economy matters, and people having money matters, but also people having hope matters, and people having confidence, and people having strong relationships with their neighbors. I think a lot of people go homeless because they just don't ask their neighbors for help. It's hard to ask for help when we need help. It's hard to ask our family members for help. It's hard to ask our friends. I had a friend of mine ask me for help the other day, for financial help, and I don't have money. I don't have that much money. Like, I'm struggling, but I'm also fortunate that my family does, and where I'm staying, we're okay financially. And so I helped him with a little bit of money. And because I can't imagine how hard it is to ask. I've been there before where I have to ask. And I think there's so many of us who are struggling with these issues and don't have the money, but don't want to ask other people for money, because if we ask, then we're not a man, or we're not an individual human, or we're not strong for asking for help. But we all need help at times, man. That's what I love about learning about some of the things in the military and like Navy SEAL training, and just how important the teamwork aspect is in Navy SEAL training, just how important that bond is with your neighbor or with your teammate. And I think in the training, in the BUDS training, they do a lot of work to strengthen that bond between the SEAL team members, because it matters, man. We need help. We can't do anything by ourselves. If you've seen the movie Into the Wild, I think it's Into the Wild, where it's about the one guy who travels across the U.S. and then eventually ends up going up to Alaska by himself. It's just, we can't do anything alone. We need help. And we'd like to help people too. People like to help us. How much do we deprive joy to other people when we don't let them help us? So I wish politicians talked about this on a deeper, kind of more spiritual level, kind of a spiritual, emotional, psychological, whatever level you want to call it, but just on a deeper level about what's going on in the country and how we're struggling and how even people who look like they're doing fantastic are struggling. Most of us are struggling, whether we're smiling or not, right? There's always some form of suffering and struggling that's going to happen in our lives. And I wish we would just pay attention to that more and how it could unite us. It's just the debate frustrated me so much. I think Biden does that quite well. He sometimes goes off into the weeds when he's talking about certain details of plans, because I don't think he's so good at the planning aspect, but I think he's good at the bringing people together aspect. And I think Trump just, I don't know. It's just, I try to monitor how I'm feeling when I watch somebody. And again, it's not an objective thing. It's more just how I'm personally feeling. But like, I get really, really angry watching Trump. It's just, it brings up so many memories of people in my life who would say similar things and then ended up hurting me deeply. And it's okay to have hopes and dreams, but we got to make them happen too. And some people would say, oh, but he has made them happen. I'm like, has he really? Or does he just do a very, 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 very good job of promoting it? Like somebody who says this is the best, worst, it's the best thing ever since sliced bread, cleanest possible, blah, blah, blah. Like doing that over and over again can give the impression that he's doing very, very well. It's the person who is homeless, but like shows up and is clean cut, and you're like, oh wow, this guy is living fantastically. Oh my God, I envy him. I envy him so much. And then he's homeless because he doesn't have any money, because he hasn't been actually doing fantastically. He just puts on a very big show. Maybe that's just a very American thing in some ways. I mean, I've seen it in other cultures too, don't get me wrong. A lot of these interactions happen with other cultures. But this idea of putting on a smile, don't cry. I mean, Trump said it in a rally the other day that he wouldn't cry. I'm not going to cry in front of you. You're going to make me cry. I'm not going to cry in front of you because you'll stop liking me. I think we should cry. I think we should cry a lot more. How much sadness are we carrying and just stuffing away? I remember I had a friend, I went to Burning Man, which is a very hippie thing to do. If you're not familiar with Burning Man, it's a festival out in Nevada that has happened every year. Gosh, for the last 20 years or so, maybe 30 years. And I went there, and a friend of mine, this guy I just met, had lost his mother and his grandmother in the previous year or so and hadn't cried once. You lost your grandmother and mother and you didn't cry? And then we were there for like a whole week, and finally on the last day, he just broke down in tears. So much catharsis for his soul, and for mine too, to just be there with him. I cried so much during that time too. That's okay to cry. And so when I look at who I want to be president, and when I look at who I want to lead this country, I want someone who leads us emotionally, not someone who just leads us economically, because I personally believe that the emotions are very tied to the economics. And if we get all this money and we're feeling rotten on the inside, not that we are rotten, but that we're feeling kind of angry at ourselves or frustrated with ourselves or numb, is it worth it? Is all that money worth it? Maybe it's easy to say from my position where it looks as if I'm not struggling hard. If you notice, I wear like the same shirts because I really don't own too many shirts. So I'm not swimming in cash like many may think. But yeah, I don't know. I think we have a lot of emotional challenges that we're facing in this country, tied to so many different issues. And I don't think when our current president stands on stage and attacks the other person and says that he's a horrible person and that he's corrupt and he's lying and he's cheating and he's dumb and he's this and that. I just don't think that brings resolution to the country. I want a country that has resolve. It just doesn't seem like we have much resolve right now. I'm tired of my families getting split apart because of political division. I'm really tired of it. I'm tired of our leaders attacking the humanity and the characteristics of the individual person. I'm tired of it. I'm really tired of it. I want to see leaders who are emotionally healthy, who can cry, who can laugh, who can smile, who can get angry and express the anger in a clear way, to say I'm angry instead of that you're an idiot. There's different ways to express anger. There are healthy ways. I'd say there are healthy ways. There are unhealthy ways. There are ways that bring people together, and there are ways that definitely push people apart. What else? Somebody who can express hope, somebody who can express uncertainty and admit that they don't know what's going on and say, but together we're going to get through this. I really just want somebody to stand up and say, my heart hurts, America. This is a very difficult year for so many of us, for so many reasons. Whether you've lost somebody to COVID-19 or whether you've lost a job to COVID-19 or whether you've lost a friendship or a relationship or income or hope and faith in your neighbor or a sense of security and a sense of safety. Fear not knowing when you're going to walk out of your house and that you may get taken by this invisible virus, or that you'll lean into someone because you really love them and they get away from you because they don't trust how you've protected yourself from the virus. And just all those little moments of pain that we've been experiencing this year. It's been a hard year. And it's okay. It's okay to sometimes go through a hard year. You know, it's part of life. Sometimes we got to go through the tough stuff to get to the great stuff. And some of you may have found solace in this. Maybe some of you are excited to be home. Maybe some of you are excited to have an excuse to slow down, to spend more time with family. How many of us have seen our family more? Some of us have seen it much less. But how many of us have spent time with, like, very intense time with some of our loved ones and got to know them better than we ever thought we would have? I'm grateful for this opportunity to be back home with my parents and spend so much time with them. How lucky am I? How often does somebody at my age, I'm 35, how often does somebody get that experience, that opportunity to be that close to their parents in adulthood? You know, but we can change. We can get through this together, but we have to do it together. We need everyone's help. And people have been helping each other a lot. This is 7 or 8 months now. What has shocked me and overwhelmed me so much is just the sheer effort by so many people, even people who don't necessarily believe that this is a big deal, have still put in a lot of effort to try to wear masks, to try to maintain the physical distance, to respect the needs and the wishes of other people, and to respect the risks that other people are willing to take or not willing to take. It's a hard problem to solve. And I think overall, we've been doing a pretty good job, especially as a population. I think we need to start doing a better job as a national government. I think as a national government, it is our responsibility to coordinate the state governments and also to coordinate the response of citizens, but especially the governments. We are a government, and we should be focusing on governments and how we govern this country. And I believe that it's past time that we start listening to what epidemiologists say in terms of running the full play of doing the testing and tracing in a way that respects people and doesn't force people to participate, but inspires people to participate? How do we come up with a solution that makes people want to participate, gives them an incentive to participate? What are the consequences or benefits for participating? Listen, instead of forcing people, you have to wear a mask, say, oh, if you wear a mask, then you're able to do this and this and this. And if this percentage of people wear masks, again, we don't need 100% compliance, but if this percentage of people wear masks, then we could squash out this virus. Let's do this together. Man, turn it into a challenge and an opportunity instead of this thing that's destroying this country and ripping us apart. And some people think it's real and some people think it's fake. It's like, let's turn it into a game where we work together to resolve this and show the world how it's done. Because, honestly, if we could figure out how to do this and show the world how it's done, we could make a lot of money off doing that too. Like, money's an opportunity as well. We start learning how to do testing and tracing so that we can export that to other countries and we can be a leader in that. But we could also be a leader when the next pandemic hits, because we figured out how to turn around and make these tests very quickly. And we figured out methodologies that work for tracing in different environments, because in the US, we have many different geographies and living environments. Man, what an opportunity that we're faced with right now. What an opportunity to galvanize this country and come together. Instead of looking at this as such a thing that's purely pain. There's pain. There's going to be loss of life. There's going to be loss of jobs. It's going to happen. Saying that it's not is living outside of reality. But just because we lose jobs doesn't mean that we can't gain jobs. Just because we lose someone's life doesn't mean we can't hold on to their memory and we can't live a more inspired life. There's a talk by a professor named George Kohlreiser. He talked about how his son had died, and he said at some point he had to grieve his son's loss so he can get back to the joy of living and live for his son. What opportunities do we have to do that right now? We have a lot of opportunities. The ball is metaphorically in our court, and let's move forward. Let's get back on the same team, because all this infighting is not going to help us solve this problem. And it's not going to help us create new solutions and new technologies and new ways of being and interacting with each other that can help us move forward and overcome certain barriers like this one, but other barriers that we will certainly face in the future. This is not the first test for humanity. This is not the first test for American society, and it won't be the last. It's an opportunity for us to come together and say that when we are faced with challenges, we will rise together. We will not fight each other. We will see the opportunity and the possibility in it to build a stronger nation and build a stronger bond, not fall apart at the seams and go into our own corners. We have an opportunity. We still have an opportunity. It's been 8 months, and 8 months have happened. Whatever has happened has happened. Let's move forward together now. I appreciate the style of speaking. I'm speaking more how I wanted to speak. I'm not talking about what other people should do, but what I want to hear other people say. And this is what I want to hear other people say. We are more alike than we are different. We are struggling with similar things, more so than different things. And we could all use a good cry. We could all use a good cry. And a good hug. And a good laugh. Someone just to pat us on the back and say, we're going to get this done. We're going to do it. Gosh. You know how good it feels when somebody's there for us when we really need them. And when we're there for them when they really need us. I'd argue there's no better feeling in the world to to help someone when they need it. So many of us need it right now. And so many of us can offer it right now. We need help and we can offer help. And what is a society except a group of human beings helping each other with the big and small things throughout life? Turning on the dishwasher, or taking out the garbage, or coming up with a new economic plan or medical plan for the country. We need help. And we can help. For those of you listening, whether you're in the United States or whether you're in other countries, the situation is the same. We're still human beings. We're still struggling with our own struggles, and in times of need, we still need other people. I just want to let you know that there are a lot of us out there who want to help, and there are a lot of us who need the help too. And hopefully we can have a little more courage in asking for the help, and a little more patience in giving the help. I feel optimistic after giving this speech, actually. After the debates, I was feeling really angry and really frustrated with the world. And I think it's because I watch how people speak and listen to them and wish they were speaking in a different way. And I just want to speak in that way now. I'm tired of waiting for them to say what I think needs to be said. There was a quote from Elon Musk, I think, where they asked him why he was doing, I think it was like satellite internet. And he says, I think it needs to be done and I don't see anyone else doing it. And I like to take that and say, well, I think it needs to be said and I don't hear anyone else saying it. Listen, whether you're from the US or from China or from Russia or from Tanzania or Kenya or Cyprus or Panama or any of these countries, whether you're from any part of the US, whether you're any age, religion, any category we can come up to divide us, I still love you. I will do my darndest to always love you. So let's try to do this together, my friends. I'm going to go drink the rest of this little concoction I made up. And I'm grateful you're here. I'm grateful that you are still in the fight. Life can be a fight sometimes, but it can be a really big prize if we just push through. So glad to have you on this team. Whether you think you're on the team or not, I believe you're on my team, and makes me feel pretty good. All right, y'all. Have a good night. Stay well.